My name is Walter Joseph Kovacs, and today I will debate what makes a monster with 20 serial killers. My first claim is that a monster is created by choice, not circumstance. A man can have terrible childhood and choose goodness. A monster chooses evil despite opportunity for goodness.
You assume goodness is a choice available to everyone equally, but choice requires framework. A man raised to value life will choose to preserve it. A man raised in cruelty will choose cruelty. You say a man can have terrible childhood and choose goodness, but you do not explain how. What internal mechanism allows him to reject everything he learned? What moral foundation does he stand on? Without explaining how goodness becomes possible despite circumstance, you cannot blame a man for not achieving it. You blame him for lacking something you have not proven he could develop.
You describe a man as product of environment. But if that is true, then every person is simply a machine executing his programming. That person has no responsibility. But you do not believe that. You believe your choices matter. You created philosophy around your killing. You taught it to others. That proves you believe in agency, in choice. You cannot claim environment determined everything while also claiming your ideas matter enough to spread. If you are just environmental product, your ideas are just environmental product too. They have no value, but you think they do. That contradiction proves you know choice is real.
I believe in agency within constraints. A man has choice, but his choices are shaped by his nature, by what he was made to be. A man raised to value efficiency will make efficient choices. A man raised in chaos will make chaotic choices. Both are choosing, but they are choosing within their nature. You claim a man with terrible childhood can choose goodness, but that requires him to reject his fundamental nature. That is not choice. That is impossible transformation. I did not reject my nature. I acted according to it.
You describe nature as fixed, but nature evolves. A man can learn, can be taught, can change his values through effort. That effort is choice. Yes, it is harder for a man with terrible childhood, but harder is not impossible. Thousands of men have had terrible childhoods and become good. That proves choice is possible. You did not try. You chose not to try. That choice is where monstrosity lives, not in your circumstance, not in your nature, in your decision to act on that nature without resistance. My next claim is that a monster is someone who breaks the social contract. Normal people follow unwritten rules. Monsters ignore them completely.
The social contract assumes shared values. But what if someone does not share those values? What if someone does not believe human life has value? Then the contract does not apply to him. You say monsters ignore unwritten rules, but those rules are only binding if you accept the premise behind them. I do not accept the premise. I do not believe in the sanctity of life. I do not believe in fairness or mercy. Those are religious concepts masquerading as universal principles. Without God, without transcendent morality, what justification do you have for those rules? Why should I follow rules based on premises I reject?
You say you reject the value of life, but you value your own life. You kill to survive. You run from death. You plan futures. That proves you believe life has value. You just do not believe other people's lives have value. That is not consistency. That is narcissism. You have decided you matter and others do not. But that decision has no logical foundation. If life has no value, your life has no value either. But you act as though it does. You cannot reject morality while acting as though morality applies to everyone but you. That is logical contradiction. And logical contradiction proves the premise is wrong.
I value my life because I am conscious. I experience. Other people are abstracts. I do not experience their consciousness. I only infer it. But inference is not certainty. I am certain of my own consciousness. Therefore, I value my own life with certainty. I treat other people's lives as uncertain, as potentially valueless. That is logically consistent. I do not claim to know their consciousness is real. I only know mine is real.
By that logic, a man who is unconscious has no value. A man in a coma should be killed because you cannot infer his consciousness. A sleeping man has no value because he is not currently conscious. That leads to absurdity. You know it does. That absurdity proves the logic is wrong. The only way your philosophy survives is if you say consciousness is the measure of value. But then you must measure all consciousness equally. Your consciousness and theirs are the same type. If one matters, both matter. You cannot claim certainty of your consciousness justifies valuing only yours. That is circular reasoning. My next claim is that a monster justifies his actions. He creates philosophy around what he does. That self-justification proves he knows what he does is wrong.
I did not justify killing. I explained killing. There is a difference. Justification assumes something is wrong and needs defending, but I did not believe killing criminals was wrong. I believed it was necessary. A surgeon explains his surgery. He does not justify it. The surgery is necessary, so no justification is needed. I explained my killing the same way. I was not hiding guilt. I was explaining necessity. Your assumption that explanation equals justification equals hidden guilt is wrong. It assumes my premise was faulty. But maybe my premise was correct. Maybe killing criminals is necessary. Then explanation is just clarity.
A surgeon operates under constraints, medical ethics, consent, licensing, oversight. You operated under none. You judged crimes without evidence, executed without trial. You are not a surgeon. You are a man with power acting on impulse. A surgeon explains surgery as necessary within an established framework. You created the framework to justify the action. The framework came after the desire to kill. That is justification. You wanted to kill criminals. Then you created reasons it was good to kill them. Then you expanded the framework as your desires expanded. That pattern proves justification, not explanation.
You assume my framework came after my desire. But I do not think that is true. When I first found the notebook, I immediately saw the implications. That crime creates suffering. That criminals continue creating suffering. That eliminating them would reduce suffering. That framework was immediate, not created later. You claim I expanded it as my desires expanded. But I expanded it as my understanding expanded. As I saw more criminals, more suffering. That is growth of understanding, not corruption of framework.
Your understanding expanded conveniently. First you killed criminals. Then you killed people investigating you. Then you killed people who opposed you. Your definition of criminal expanded with each action. That is not growth. That is erosion of standards. A true framework would become more restrictive as you applied it. More careful. Yours became more permissive. That proves the framework was always justification. Always designed to permit what you wanted to do. If the framework was genuine, it would have constrained you. Instead, it enabled you. My next claim is that a monster operates from narcissism, the need to be special, to be remembered, to prove superiority. That need is what drives the killing.
You claim narcissism drives killing, but narcissism is just extreme self-interest. All humans have self-interest. A man does not need narcissism to kill. He needs only to value himself more than others, but that is not an illness. That is basic self-preservation. A man will eat food another man needs if he is hungry enough. That is not narcissism. That is survival. You call killing narcissistic because you do not understand that some people simply do not care about others. That is not narcissism. That is indifference. Indifference is not an abnormality. Indifference is rationality applied consistently. Caring about others is the abnormality. Caring is irrational.
You describe indifference as rationality. But a man completely indifferent would not kill. He would ignore others. Killing requires action, effort. Indifference motivates nothing. Narcissism motivates action. It creates the need to be seen, to be feared, to matter. A truly indifferent person would not kill for revenge, would not create a legacy, would not need to be remembered. You kill because you need to be special, need to be feared. That proves narcissism, not indifference. You hide behind philosophy to avoid admitting you need others' attention to feel real.
I kill to maintain power, to keep people fearful. That is strategic, not narcissistic. A man maintains territory by making enemies afraid to enter it. That is not about needing to be special. That is about survival. I control dreams because dreams are my territory. If I do not maintain that control through fear, my territory collapses. The killing is maintenance, not ego. You assume all motivation must come from emotion, from need. But survival motivation is rational. It does not require narcissism.
My next claim is that a person becomes a monster the moment they know it's wrong and do it anyway.
You say knowing something is wrong and doing it anyway makes you a monster. But what if wrong is relative? What if what is wrong for one person is right for another? A predator knows a prey animal will suffer, but the predator eats it anyway. Is the predator a monster? Or is the predator simply operating according to its nature? I am a predator. I know humans suffer when I kill them, but I kill them anyway. I am not a monster. I am an apex predator operating according to my nature. The fact that I know about their suffering does not make me a monster. It makes me aware.
A predator does not know right from wrong. It has no moral framework. But you do. You speak language. You understand human society. You know humans create moral frameworks. You know those frameworks say killing is wrong. You accept those frameworks intellectually but reject them behaviorally. A predator has no such conflict. A predator just kills. But you know killing violates the social contract you live within. You chose to live in that society and violate its rules. That choice is monstrosity. A predator is just biology. You are a person making a choice.
I know the frameworks exist, but I do not accept them. I know humans created them. That means they are human constructions, not universal truths. A human construction can be rejected. I accept human language. I accept human shelter, but I reject human morality. That is consistent. I choose to live in human society because it provides resources, but I choose to reject its moral constraints. That is not contradiction. That is selective acceptance.
You accept language, accept protection, but reject the morality that creates those things. Language evolved to allow cooperation. Cooperation requires moral frameworks. Shelter is built by people working together. That cooperation requires morality. Protection exists because people agreed to protect each other. That agreement requires morality. You cannot accept the products of morality while rejecting morality itself. You cannot use language without accepting the cooperative framework language requires. The moment you use language, you accept morality. The moment you live in society, you accept the contract. Violating what you accepted makes you a monster. That choice defines it.